For me, honestly, I think, like, so many of my close friends are people from London who've moved here for work and stuff like that. It's like, I'd say since I left home, I've never really had the place that feels like, oh, that's my home. I'd say my house in London is the most homely that I feel anywhere. Just because I've been there the longest. I've been there for like 6 years now. With like all the touring and stuff that we did in the band, I remember there was one point where we'd been away for so long that I came home to my house in England, and I was home for about 5 days, and I walked in the door and I sat down, and I was like, I don't know what to do like when I'm home at all. I'd been away for so long. I didn't, I hadn't seen my friends for so long. I didn't know who was around. I don't know if I was really. I had never been to London before I moved there, which is crazy to me to think about it now. It's not that far away from where I grew up. It's like a 3-hour drive. But London was like where the rich kids went shopping on the weekend, like with their mum or something, you know? But also everything about it felt like it was like, this is a new challenge. And if it takes me to London, then yeah, it's pretty crazy now, because there'll be times where people will remind me of stuff that happened that I forgot about. And you like relive it all over again. And you're kind of like, oh yeah, that was cool too. The first 2 years you don't even feel like you're working at all, because you're just so happy to not be going to school. And it's like, to do this, great, okay. And you kind of go from also like, when you're a kid and you see a T-shirt that you want and you like save up the exact amount.
Yeah.
But you'd have to account for like the postage and packaging, so you'd actually have to like save up for this amount. You're kind of like doing this, and then you move to London and you work doing stuff that's fun, and you're like, can I buy this T-shirt? And someone's like, yeah, if you want. And you're like, okay. I mean, probably like a birthday meal I had with some friends. I used to live next to a Chinese restaurant, and it was like my favorite restaurant. So I used to come home from school every day, and I'd get up to my bedroom, like open the window and stick my head out.
To smell it.
Woo! And that was like where I went for my birthday meals. But I'd say probably the biggest stuff would probably be, there was a river, it's called the River Dane, where, everyone would go down in the summer and you'd buy those little disposable barbecues you used to take, and someone would be in charge of like buying sausages and someone would have to buy the drinks. One of my favorite memories, I'll give you two. The first one was when we'd just been formed as a band. There was like a picture of us that had been taken from when we were at the show, like someone's mum had taken it. And it was like the first picture of us, just the 5 of us. And we were staying at my stepdad's house. We were like living in this little bungalow, all of us together, to like practice, and we were just like singing songs, and basically just had a sleepover for like 4 days, and everyone drove down, and there's a tiny little like newsagents down the street, and we'd heard this picture was being put in the paper. So we were like, oh, we're gonna be in the paper. Like, that's crazy. So the five of us like left this little bungalow and walked down to the newsagents and got the paper and then came back and had breakfast, and we're all just like sitting, staring at the paper and like passing around the paper, and we're like, let me see it again, let me see it again. And I don't know, I guess just because we just didn't know it was. We were watching X Factor at my family. We were at my cousin's house the day that my audition went on air, and you know, we watched it and we're like, oh, this is crazy. And then we're driving home and we go to a petrol station to stop off and fill up. And I'm in the petrol station and this guy goes, were you just on X Factor? And I was like, yes, I was. But yeah, I'd say that. And then the other one, I guess, once the band had really started, was we were in Sweden recording What Makes You Beautiful in the studio. Someone came up into the room and was like, there's two girls outside. And we were like, why? And they're like, they're like looking for you. And we were all just like, but we're in Sweden, you know? So that was like another...
It's super innocent.
Same, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
that was kind of thing like, oh my God, that's so crazy. Like, we're in Sweden. How? Pretty amazing, actually. I didn't really have a plan for like when I wanted to make a record. I knew I wanted to start writing at some point, and that's kind of why I came out here. And I started with Get Up and so Sweet Creature was the first song we did. That was like in my first writing session. So when I kind of started like, because up until that point, I'd done a lot of sessions with different people, and I tried to write with as many different people as possible just to feel like, just to like learn. I just wanted to learn. It was like, the best way I've ever heard songwriting described is like, it's kind of like surfing in that you can practice getting up on the board as much as you want, and sometimes the wave just doesn't come. Or the wave comes, but you haven't practiced getting up on the board enough. Every now and again, you've practiced enough and the wave comes, and that's when I'd been writing in the band, it was kind of like, if I'd ever written stuff that was just with a friend or something, it was kind of like, well, I'm not going to release any music, but what would it sound like if I was to write a song? Just didn't really want to. Yeah. And definitely didn't have time to. Yeah, I mean, it was hard, you know. Part of it was kind of like, we were sad, obviously, that someone had left, but also sad that he was not enjoying it so much that he had to leave. Because I think at the time, too, the tour and everything was going so well, and everyone kind of got to this place where everyone was kind of living in a way where they, I think, felt pretty good. It felt like everyone was kind of enjoying it, and yeah, I'd say a big part of it was us kind of being like, wow, we didn't realize he wasn't enjoying it that much, you know. You know, obviously there was big moments for us where we were like, what we do it, you know. So we were about to start recording a new album and stuff, and it was like, are we recording this without him? But I'd say in the moment, I guess the four of us became closer. Because we were like, okay, this is a hurdle that we weren't expecting. And I think you deal with this in many different places when you're with like traveling and touring, and it's a demanding thing, and not everyone likes doing it. But it's kind of like if someone's not enjoying it, you'd rather they don't do it. I can also tell because the times where I've ever been like really, really upset by people is when I'm more upset with myself when I've got it wrong.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I have I feel like I'm a pretty good judge of character. And that's the only time I feel myself get really upset with stuff like that, is where you're like, oh, I trust this person, or, you know, I feel like they're a good thing, and then it goes the other way, and you're kind of like, I got that wrong. And then I end up like really bummed out about it for a while. I think for a really long time, especially when I started coming to California, there was a big thing for me where I felt like everyone went to therapy.
They do.
Right, and I think for a long time I was like, I don't need that. You know, it's very like British way of looking at it, I think. And then I think there was a point where I kind of was trying to work out a lot more stuff about myself, because obviously then it was just me working.
Right, yeah.
And I think it kind of comes with, when you're trying to make music, it's so navel-gazing. You're just like making an album, I feel like, is the most self-indulgent time you can think of. But yeah, I think with the therapy thing, I just realized I was just getting in my own way. You know, it's been a thing where I've definitely felt it have an impact on my life, and something that I've kind of introduced some friends to who were going through stuff, and they were very skeptical about it. I'm pretty lucky, actually, with that stuff, because, and it's probably why I didn't go to therapy earlier, is because I have those friends where I'll have the same conversation that I would have with a therapist. I was at this talk thing where Alan Botton was talking, and he was talking about how, like, real friendship is just built on vulnerability. The second you open up to someone with, like, a real thing is when you actually get to know someone. So I definitely got, if there was someone that I was friends with and I felt like, oh, I want to be, like, close to them, just open up really kind of straight away. And doing that has definitely caused me to become much closer with, like, just people, just all of my friends in general, I'd say. When I, like, listen to the first album now, I can hear all of the places where I feel like I was playing it safe, because I just didn't want to get it wrong. I just didn't want to get it wrong. I guess a big part of going into this album was I spent a lot of time kind of thinking about the whole process of you make an album, and then you put it out, and you know, kind of release it, and then you tour it, and all of the bits that I didn't enjoy as much, I kind of went into the second one feeling like I want to work out how to make all of this feel really fun. Like, I would rather not do it than do it and it not be fun. Making this album was all about freedom.
Yeah, of course, it sounds it.
I had a big moment of, I guess, through the whole making of this record, I was kind of trying to redefine what success meant to me. For so long, especially in the band, it was like every album got bigger and every tour got bigger, and it was like always growing. And I think when I went to make the first record, it was kind of freeing because I felt like, well, I don't have to do this anymore. That was a thing that I'd always said I wanted to do when we kind of started, and when we started doing the music, it was like, kind of said to my manager, like, the first tour that I do, I want it to be really small. And then I guess with this one, it was like, I just wanted to have fun. One of my friends kind of said, if you're happy doing what you're doing, then nobody can tell you you're not successful. I mean, it's so obvious, but it's also the kind of thing where probably 4 years ago, if someone had said that to me, I'd be like, okay. And also, I guess, when I was in the band, there was a big thing of, because we would make, the last 3 records we made on the road, and I had friends who were musicians who I knew would, like, they would tour, and then they would take 6 months off. Golden, we wrote on day 2 of being in Shangri-La. That was kind of like, and immediately, as soon as we'd done it, it was like, oh, this is track 1. In all honesty, I'd say I try and think about it as little as possible, because it's a very strange, dynamic thing. It's also like a weird thing to think of about yourself.
Totally.
I guess the thing with, like, sex in general is, like, it used to feel so much more taboo for me to even like when we were in the band, like, the thought of people thinking that I had sex was like, oh, no, that's crazy. Like, what if they know? But it's like, you know?
Yeah.
So, even just, like, coming into this record, I wanted to feel a little less, like, guarded with stuff. I wanted to feel a lot freer and just more joyful and, like, honest. And I think a lot of the time with, like, when there's, like, tabloid stuff, for example, of, like, people breaking up and, you know, it's like, I think people forget that there's, like, a person who's also broken up with someone, which is sad. Like,
Yeah.
You get sad when you break up. Yeah, and it's kind of like, it's a weird one for me because I'm always like, you know, I don't like to kind of explain songs or, like, kind of explain the meaning behind them and stuff like that. But I think with this record, it's so much more open.
Yeah.
That it's like, but you've told us in the, like, it tells you what it is, you know? I think a thing that I like about kind of definitely where this record went, especially compared to the last one, is, like, when I start making an album, I don't feel like, oh, I'm making an album that I'm gonna put out in December of next year. Or it feels like I just start writing some songs, and then, so then I can be as honest as possible. And then the time when you get to decide if you think it's too honest is when you're putting it out. Not great. But I think also in the moment I felt like I was realizing some stuff about, it was all part of, like, being more open and, you know, not being like, I don't care. It's like, no, like, you get petty when, you know, when something's not going the way that you want. Like, you get petty with that stuff. And I think there's something with Cherry where it's like, it's so pathetic, kind of, in a way. The night that I wrote it, we'd been writing for a few weeks, and everyone had left the studio. It was me, Tyler, and Sammy, who's our engineer. And we were kind of sitting around talking, like 2 a.m. maybe. And I was saying that I was feeling a lot of pressure because the last record wasn't like a radio record. I felt like a lot of pressure to be making these like big songs. And I was like, I feel like this record has to be really big. So I feel like I need to make certain songs. You know, I have all these ideas about records that I want to make, and I want to make this record in 5 years, I want to make this record in 10 years, and I want to make, like, just these ideas for records that I want to make. And we had this conversation, and Tyler just said to me, you just have to make the record that you want to make right now. That's it. There's no, like, let me make sure this one's a commercial success so that I can make what I want later down the road. You just have to make the record that you want to make right now.
He's right.
So then we stayed up and wrote Cherry that night. I don't know, I think it was like, because it got added in later on, and it felt so part of the song. It just felt like it needed it with friends and stuff, so I asked her if it was okay, and she was okay with it. I was going out for dinner, I think, and I was getting picked up from Tom's house, so he came to pick me up. And I was showering, and he was like playing on the piano, and as I came out of the shower, he was playing like the dun 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 dun. I went and stood next to him at the piano, just in a towel, and we just kind of wrote the whole thing. I'm so lucky with my family. They've always just been really supportive, and it's kind of all you can ask for with like doing this. Is obviously, you know, sometimes you don't want to go home and be like, I'm miserable right now, because you want to be like, no, I'm fine, don't worry about me. And that happens too, but also have the relationship with my family where if I need to have that conversation, I can. The thing with my mum is she's less of like a soundbite of advice. She's like the kindest woman I know, you know? So for me, it's always been like just watching her, how she is with people and stuff is like, I just don't think she has like a bad bone, which is an incredible thing to grow up around. To have that person like supporting you is, it's amazing. She's the best. She's like actually the best. Friendships are probably just the most important thing to me. Like the people I'm really close with, I'd say way more important to me than anything else. I've definitely felt a difference in the conversations that I have with friends. I guess since you like experience death more. When you're a kid and you lose a grandparent or something,
Yeah.
and it's really sad, but also it's like, oh, grandparents are the people who die first. Yeah, and I think like the first time you lose like a friend is when you really feel like an adult. You're kind of like, wow.
It's because it's one of the first experiences you have, I think, where you lose control, completely lose control.
You know, I think you have those moments where, and every single person does it who's ever lost a friend, where, you know, whether you're close to them or not, I think everyone has that thing of like, I wish I'd just asked one more time if they were okay, you know? And if there's any positive thing that could possibly come out of that, it's that now the conversations that I have with friends about that stuff is way different in terms of like, you know, you ask a friend if they're okay and it's like, yeah, I'm good. And you're like, I'm like more prepared to have that like, no, but, you know, you actually are.
Give me the real stuff.
You know, and that's like their conversations that I have with my friends then. And I think that's like a really important thing. And that, obviously, like I said earlier, is where like real friendship comes from. I don't think everyone's lucky enough to have it, and I don't think it happens all the time. I'd say probably my favorite memory from making this, one of at least, was the day we wrote Golden. We stopped and went to have dinner, and we were all sat in the kitchen at Shangri-La. And we kind of just played it like on one guitar, and everyone kind of singing it around the table. And it just felt really good. Like, it felt so much more joyous than last time. And I think that makes sense because, like you said, the first single was a 7-minute piano ballad, so like it would have been weird to come out being really joyous.